5 silent killers today that are actually keeping you from growing your bird program. I'm not getting any calls. I'm just not getting bird calls. Has bird control gotten mentioned in the last 2 weeks? Because if you don't talk about it, it dies. Those birds are going back and forth between those locations. That represents an opportunity for you to cluster routes. Welcome back to the Bird Control Secrets podcast. Today we're going to talk about 5 things that are standing between you. And here's what's cool. It's not just growth in bird, but growth in a whole bunch of other things. I'm going to really relate this to bird, but this is going to help your pest control business grow too. So a lot of times when there are seasonal changes, when it comes to leads and sales, closing and operations, a lot of times we will, equate it to something that's outside of our control. Like, hey, the birds are migrating right now, or hey, the birds are nesting, or the pests are doing this, or whatever it is. And a lot of times it actually has more to do with our systems and the things that we have in place than it actually has to do with the seasonal stuff. And we'll chalk it up to these things that are outside of our control, and it's really not. And so I want to help you guys not do that. It's not the birds. It's the system. And so I want to give you guys 5 silent killers today that are actually keeping you from growing your bird program. And here's what's cool. They allow you to scale and grow your bird program alongside your ant program or your roach program or your rodent program or termite program or any of that stuff. They'll allow you to grow that alongside it. So the very first issue that we run into is no SOPs or limited SOPs, so leads are actually falling through the cracks. So it might look like something like this. You had hot bird leads, let's say maybe earlier in the year, and everything got quiet. It's not because the leads disappeared. It's actually because no one followed up. Now, here's the thing. You might be going, yeah, we are following up. Yeah, no, that's not me. Here's what I want to do as I give you these 5 things. I'm going to give you questions to ask yourself, just one question to ask yourself per problem so that you can identify yourself in the problem and see whether or not this problem is actually something that you're having, in which case then I'm going to give you some real solutions to that problem, okay? So here's a question that you could ask yourself about this. If I hired a brand new salesperson today, a brand new person to actually close these. Let's say maybe you have techs that are out there closing these jobs too. If I hired someone and their responsibility was to close bird leads today, could they actually go through and close a bird job without me holding their hand and explaining to them how to close that? Do I have a system in place that allows them to do that without me actually holding their hand and helping walk them through actually how to do that? If the answer to this question is no, don't worry. I'm actually going to give you a couple quick fixes here really quickly. Here's some things that you could actually do right now to fix this problem. First of all, take a look at every bird lead that came in over the last year, right? Take some time and pull those leads. And all the ones that you had that didn't close, take some time to text, to call, or to email each one of them with urgency. You're asking questions, things like, are you still seeing bird? We're booking the final jobs inside whatever window it is that you want to use to create urgency right now. Do you want me to hold a spot for you? And then track those results. Warm, cold, no response. Make sure that you're setting a reminder for 7-day follow-up sequences. A few hours of work could actually clean this whole thing up, right? And then from there, you want to implement that into your system every year where you're going through. And this could be every month where you're looking back at your leads and you're kind of doing the same thing, seeing what slipped through the cracks and then going, okay, great. How do we create urgency with those ones that slipped through the cracks? How can we circle back? How can we follow up? How can we make sure that every lead gets touched and that gets done in a really good way? Here's the second thing, problem number 2 you might run into. No sales sequence, or this is one of my favorites that our team will hear all the time. I'm not getting any calls. I'm just not getting bird calls where you're waiting for the phone to ring. This is when inbound leads kind of slow down. Most teams have a tendency to go quiet. Here's what's interesting. Bird sales don't die. What happens is they actually go cold as we start to stand still. So here's a question that you ask yourself to identify yourself in this. Have we personally followed up or retargeted every single bird lead over the last 60 days? Have we followed up? Have we gone after them again in some way, shape, or form? Could be the same method, could be a new method, could be a combination of the two in the last 60 days. Here's what you can do right now. Okay. First of all, manual follow-up, text, voicemail, short emails saying something like, do you still see bird activity? We're booking the final jobs right now for whatever season it is, whatever time frame it is that you're trying to create urgency in. You can have a CRM sequence. And if you don't have the ability to sequence inside your CRM right now, depending on whatever you're using, I'd say that's a major problem. That's going to cause you huge issues in the future. You want things running in the background so that your salespeople, that your techs have momentum that's being created for them in the background without them having to manually do some things. So if you don't have a CRM that leverages the ability to sequence things or the ability to automatically send some things in the background, you want to make that switch right now. Okay. But here's the second thing you can do: set up a CRM sequence that's got a 5-day, sometime a 5-day drip. So day 1 is maybe like a reminder email. Day 3 is like a text. Day 5 is a need help kind of follow-up or something like that. Day 6, assigning that callback task to whoever it is that's supposed to do that callback, or that follow-up to whoever it is that's supposed to actually do that follow-up. Remember, because bird is a little bit different than some of the other pests, it requires a little bit more activity on the sales side to get them to take action. A big part of that is because of the price tag, as opposed to what someone might do with, let's say, maybe ant work or something like that. You want to make sure that you are on top of these leads, that you're holding these guys' hands, walking through the process. One of the other things that you can do is actually trigger some retargeting ads. So if you're using, Facebook or Google Ads or something like that, you can actually launch something to anyone who's visited your site, for anyone who's actually requested quotes, from anyone that you've talked to about the problem, that maybe your techs have identified that problem on their site. And it could be things like, still seeing birds, final, whatever seasonal it is, slots are still available. Act now before the birds actually settle back in, right? You want to stack some of these, and it'll actually help to wake some of these deals up. So the thing is if the phone isn't ringing, it's not because all of your leads dried up. It's just because you kind of fallen asleep a little bit on those leads. This is a great way to get that phone to start to ring again. Here's the third problem that you might run into. Maybe it's a route strategy issue where you might be avoiding some profitable jobs. So here's what this looks like. It looks like saying no to maybe decent bird jobs because they feel like they're too far, they're not worth the trip, they're on the edge of the service area, something like that. But here's what you might be missing. Birds don't stay in one place. They actually move around, right? And here's the hard truth is birds don't care about our routing strategy. So how can we pick up on issues that might happen because of routing, or jobs that were declining because of routing? Here's a question to ask yourself to identify yourself in this. Have I mapped my current bird jobs, and have I used them to target nearby properties, knowing that birds will actually travel from one property to the next? Here's one thing that we will say to companies as they're talking about bird issues. We let them know, look, the birds aren't roosting, loafing, and nesting all in one side. So they're not sleeping, hanging out, digesting food and dropping weight, and nesting all in one place all the time. They're flying from one spot to the next. And generally that one spot, let's say you've got a FedEx facility or whatever it is that they're flying back and forth from, or some kind of a shipping facility or whatever, and they're hanging out here most of the time within like, half a mile, quarter mile, whatever it might be, right next door. Those birds are going back and forth between those locations. That represents an opportunity for you to cluster routes, okay? So here's what you can do this week to actually help fix that problem. Map and cluster. That's what we'll call that strategy. Map and cluster. Plot your current jobs out. Take a look at your current pest jobs. And you can take a look at some of the current bird jobs. Identify the properties within a quarter to a half mile of those existing jobs, right? Either places that you've identified that there is a bird problem. It doesn't have to be a place that you've sold. It could be a place you've identified a bird problem and it's within a quarter to a half a mile of where you're currently doing treatment. This could be rodent treatment. This could be ant treatment. This could be whatever, right, at a property. But this is somewhere that's already on your route, and maybe that location either has a bird issue, somewhere next to it has a bird issue. What else is there within a quarter to a half mile? Okay. From there, you actually want to reach out, right? This could be a call. This could be a cold call. This could be a walk-in, right? But it's like, hey, we're handling the birds, somewhere nearby. What we know is these birds are actually going back and forth between the buildings. We'd love to take a look and see if you guys are seeing any of these bird issues. Now, here's what's cool. This could open up the opportunity for a protection program sell to a preemptive one. So if they're not having a bird problem right now, it's like that's not a problem that you want to get. You could actually show them examples of what that looks like. And it's like those birds that you're going to cause to leave a location over here have to go somewhere, right? So what you could do is highlight for them the value now of a protection program where you might be able to sell something to them where it's a proactive solution rather than a reactive solution to keep them from getting a bird infestation. The third thing that you would do from here is you'll just stack your routes, bundle those jobs in zones, right? That's going to reduce your drive time. That's going to increase your profit per hour. So there's a smart way to go about this. Instead of going, hey, this is out on the fringe of my territory, man, let's hand that off or whatever, right? Instead going like, hey, how can I turn this one opportunity into 3 opportunities, 5 opportunities, 10 opportunities, right? And now you've created a route inside of that zone, even though that may be on the edge of your territory. And now you're routing from your service center all the way out to the edge and then looping back, right? And catching all the profit that's in between the time from when they leave the service center to when they come back at the end of the day, end of the week, however that's structured. Okay. Problem number 4 might be that bird work may have taken a back seat as other things have started to come up. Here's what this looks like. The season hits, let's call it summer. We're happen to be in summer right now, but this could pertain to any other season. Let's say that maybe ant calls spike or like mosquito season explodes or something like that, and bird control gets forgotten, not by your customers, but by your team. So ask yourself this question. Has bird control been mentioned in team meetings, in sales calls, in tech huddles anytime in the last 2 weeks? As your team has gotten together in the last 2 weeks, you might have Monday morning calls or Friday morning calls or whatever. Has bird control gotten mentioned in the last 2 weeks? Because if you don't talk about it, it dies, right? So you got to talk about it with the team. Here's what you can do right now. Make it loud again. Set some type of a short-term goal. Let's quote 5 bird jobs this week. Let's revive 3 warm leads, like whatever it is, right? But you want to talk about that. And you as a manager, you as a leader, that may be your responsibility. Hey, if you're a tech and you're watching this, right, you can actually take some responsibility here too. It's like, man, like you might know, I get paid a little bit more. Some of you guys are incentivized where you get paid a little bit more if you help to upsell or do something like that, or if the job is a little bit bigger that you're on, if the dollar amount's a little bit bigger. And so you can actually take some time and approach this and go like, hey, we haven't talked about bird like in a couple weeks. Can we do that real quick? It's like, boom, that just brings it back top of mind for people to think about. Here's one of the other things that you can make sure you do, especially if you're in a management or leadership position, is to equip your technicians. You can give them some type of a checklist that's got signs to look for if they're doing ant work or mosquito work or whatever. This is how you actually look for bird. One of the things that we help guys with a lot of times is they will have all this bird opportunity there, but they've got their head down because they're checking rodent stations or whatever it is, and they never look up for signs of birds. Or sometimes we'll even run into situations where it's like, hey, like we have tons of opportunity here that we're missing. Why are we missing it? We'll go on site, we'll look, and we'll see like, things like these rodent bait stations and they have bird droppings on them, and it's not even occurring to the techs to like, hey, maybe I should look up and look around for birds. It can be that obvious. So having some type of a sheet that they actually go and they're looking for bird activity for the different types of locations that you're treating can be very, very helpful. Signs of what to look for, what to say to the customer, maybe even how to actually log that so that if it gets handed off, if your team functions in a way where ops is handing off to sales can actually follow up on that lead, right? And those are things that we actually help to provide teams. Of course, we provide training on that in our certification masterclass, but then we also provide some SOP documents and stuff like that that can actually help with that. And other programs that we have, our 60 and 60 program, which is shameless plug here, I guess, but it's where we help you add with a scalable system 60K in bird jobs in 60 days, right? So we have different programs that are designed to actually help you with this. You're not alone. We can help you with the SOPs and how to implement those. Here's another thing that you can do on that is you can actually appoint someone almost like a bird champion, basically, but it's one person that tracks quotes and follow-ups for a couple weeks, right? They may not be the person that needs to close them. They actually just need to drive the activity. They're your squawk box guy, right? Like they're the guy that's like, bird opportunity. Let's not forget about birds, right? And you could even incentivize that guy. Like, hey, if our bird in the office, it's like if our bird stuff, our bird leads close more in the next 30 days, I'll give you a little spiff or whatever, right? And now that guy is like constantly going like, hey, we didn't talk about bird. Hey, we didn't talk about bird. He might sound like a broken record, right? He might sound like a parrot or whatever, right? But that's okay. That's what you want. You need somebody that's keeping that top of mind so that it doesn't slump off as other things start to blow up. And again, I talked about the routing earlier. If you do this right, because a lot of times guys will be like, man, I'm maxed out. I blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no. You can cram a little bit more in. The problem may not be the problem that you're dealing with may not be the volume of work that's coming in. The problem that you're dealing with may just be the location of the work based on your routes. So it's like if they're going here and they have to then go to the building next door, that's much more efficient than having to drive 10, 15, 20, 30 more minutes, right? And add that to the route, okay? The last one to be thinking about that could have caused the issue. Number 5 could be that there was no calendar or forecast that was set up correctly, which puts you in a position where you're always reacting to situations as seasons change rather than actually being proactive. So it looks like this. If every, let's say June or something, you say it always slows down, but you haven't done anything to actually prepare for that, it's not a trend. That's actually something that you could have seen coming. This is a question to ask. Do I have a bird control plan for the next 2 weeks, both for the sales side and for the ops side, right? Here's something that you can do this week. You can build a simple 14-day calendar. Maybe it's 2 days where it's callbacks, 2 days of quotes, 2 days of service and pre-baiting or whatever it is to set these jobs up, right? And then you assign some ownership and you're tracking that weekly, right? You're creating and planning for momentum. So these are things that you can do right now. It's not like you have to sit back on your heels and kind of wait for this. You can take action on this right now. So I would say if your bird sales have started to see a slump in the last couple of weeks, in the last 4 weeks, in the last couple of months, go back, rewatch this, go look at those 5 things and ask yourselves those questions because, and chances are, if you've seen a slump, it's going to be one of those 5 things. Something's up with the system, and I've given you 5 things, actually, I've given you more than 5 things, actually, that you can change, that you can do right now that will actually pick that right back up. And I guarantee you, within a couple weeks, you'll see those bird sales start to come right back. So that's really what I've got for you today inside Bird Control Secrets. I know this one's a little bit shorter than normal, but I wanted to make sure coming into this kind of season, we see this combination oftentimes of pest problems that spike up that are non-bird. And so guys kind of do the squirrel thing, right, from Disney Inside Out, right, where it's they look the other direction and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they've lost all momentum in another area. And remember, if you want to grow your business, it's all about streams. And so you want all of those streams scaling at the same time. It's not about trading one stream for the other stream, right? And so we'll see a combination of that, and then we'll see a combination of people going, oh, well, it's seasonal, the birds aren't nesting anymore, or their migration patterns have changed, or whatever. I guess because of that, these leads have dried up. And no, it's usually just a focus issue. Remember, what we focus on grows, and that's what I'll leave you with. So stay tuned for the next one, and we'll keep bringing some value here on Bird Control Secrets.